Hey everybody, it's Master Gallengeist here, bringing you my review for the movie Violet Evergarden, the movie on Netflix. And I really enjoyed this movie and really loved it. I'm going to try and be as spoiler-free as possible, mainly sticking to basic kind of outlines of what can be gleaned from the trailer or from certain kind of descriptions. Because, again, going through this series, it's mainly how something kind of gets done. And even though it's kind of harder to do a spoiler-free review on this, I would like to be able to give my thoughts on how things kind of happen without kind of going in depth for it, because I thought this was a very fitting conclusion for Violet's story overall, because it does a really kind of good job of seeing where she is at certain points in time, and then kind of how she kind of affects kind of the world around her. It's a really kind of cool way to do it, and even though it's 2 hours and 20 minutes, I wasn't checking my watch all the time to see how long everything was going on. I thought it had a pretty good pace for essentially having 3 stories in one. So we see that this whole kind of movie does a nice kind of job of presenting a story, mainly with Violet dealing with her feelings for Gilbert, and also kind of tying up and connecting with other kind of things as well, because we begin the movie with the first kind of story of seeing the granddaughter of the little child from episode 10, and her pretty much 50 years after Violet's pretty much done everything she is, and kind of exploring what's happened because that character has died, and seeing the various kind of repercussions that death has had, and how she wants to explore more of how Violet was connected with her family. It's a really kind of nice and kind of well done story, because it doesn't take up a bulk of the story, but it's a nice kind of framing device to give us more in-depth looks at Violet and everything at the point. So then we kind of go in and we see that Violet's kind of doing her thing. This is a year after the first movie that we had, the Auto Memories doll, and she's pretty much just doing her own kind of thing, and that's where it kind of dovetails into the second kind of story. Of course, we have this sick child, Eurus, and of course he needs the services of an auto memory doll and kind of writing letters for the ones that he loves, his mother, his father, and his little brother. So we kind of see Violet having to kind of deal with that. We see other kind of characters being brought in as well to deal with all of the kind of emotional fallout that we haven't seen in the series, mainly seeing Violet at this stage with her emotional growth, dealing with all the kind of repercussions of Gilbert. And then, of course, we see that Gilbert is alive, and that sets off the other kind of story that kind of is mainly the second, true part. If you would divide this up, we have the granddaughter's story as kind of the framing device, that we then see all the things Violet dealing with Eurus, and Violet dealing with the revelation of Gilbert, and what that kind of entails, because we see various different kind of characters dealing with all this information kind of being presented, and what their feelings are, and trying to communicate throughout that. And that's a great thing that Kyoto Animation has done, of the importance of communication and words, and what our meanings behind those words and our feelings are. That is something that I really love that they've done with this series, because this movie kind of cemented that for me, in that they understood what they were achieving with these stories and perfectly executed it. There's very few kind of stories that stick with me, and this one has been enshrined for me for one that I'm yeah, this is an example that I really like to hold up for. Now, does that mean everybody's going to love it? No. This deviates from the light novel in some drastic ways, but the thing is, I had not read the light novel, and I just saw this as what it was, and I think that most of the changes worked out for me, because I looked into the light novel stuff and be like, that would present some kind of problems. Now, granted, if I had read the light novel and had those things introduced, it might have made more sense. So it's like, okay, this is definitely going more of an adaptation route for what it's trying to achieve versus what the light novel tried to achieve. So you're going to have those kind of problems. That's kind of weird. Alright. But that's to be expected with certain adaptations. Though that does not excuse adaptations going buck wild with certain stuff. Like, if this had it suddenly turned into a tentacle hentai kind of thing, it does not. That would have been a different matter. I think that it still delivered the core kind of messages of trying to understand what our feelings are and trying to communicate them into better kind of perspectives and how to deal with our traumas without, like, inflicting them back on other people and trying to move on and move forward. It does a really good job of doing that while doing amazing animation, amazing character development work, and amazing music. It just all ties together very well. They're great and very well and organically executed callbacks with characters popping up, referencing certain things. Granted, it is fan service, but it is not done in a way that just flaunts itself or does it superfluously. Enunciation. It always feels like it's something to be like, oh, yes, okay, it's more like a little reminder of like, okay, yeah, it's been a little while since I've seen this. And I just have to have my hats off to them for what they've been able to achieve with everything that has happened with Kyoto Animation over the years. And it has made me, like, a big supporter of them. Like, I got the series and the first movie, and I didn't look for it on sale. Like, I was like, okay, I want to support these people because they make very good quality anime. They do a good job with, like, dubbing it as well. Now, granted, I don't go in depth between the differences of translations, so there could be something in there that's got a vastly different meaning that I completely missed or whatnot. So, if that is the case, tell me. So, I always love to learn more. But from what I have experienced of this series, I really like how the dub conveys what's going on. Let's see. It's really weird to do spoiler-free ones because you want to dig down and dig deep on certain things, but I kind of want to let people who love this series and really enjoy it go in and have a very good kind of experience with it and get the full impact of it. I'd say that I liked all the choices that they made, which is a rare thing. Sometimes I could be like, this is kind of weird, this is kind of strange, this one doesn't work out, but from what I saw and what I gathered, a lot of this stuff worked, and I'm like, yeah. Which doesn't always happen with certain things. Even animes that I really like are sometimes like, okay, there's this thing, that thing, or another thing, and it's like, I really don't have that with this series. Which is like, okay. Especially when I've got, like, other kind of medium that I've seen, I'm like, wow, okay, this thing's 2 hours and 20 minutes, not watching my watch at all. I see something like Venom, Let There Be Carnage, and I'm like, that's 90 minutes, and I'm like, is this over yet? That didn't happen here. I kind of actually liked sometimes how they would take stock and actually let certain scenes sit to let you kind of get the emotion or kind of the sense and the ambiance and the atmosphere of certain scenes, and sometimes even that lets you get a little bit more of the character as well. Now, does that mean that you, like, sit for 30 minutes on somebody looking at a grapefruit? No, and that doesn't happen here. But there is balance in how you do it, and I just am very happy with how this worked out. The hardest thing to really stick for in a story is trying to get the ending that really works very well and just sticks thematically for characters, everything like that. And this one, it doesn't give you all the answers, but it's also a nice conclusion. It concludes the stories that it tells in a nice way that some people would be like, oh, it's too neat or whatnot. It's like, no, there's room for ambiguity. There's room to even continue on if they want. And it's like, would I like more Violet Evergarden? Yes. But am I happy with this conclusion and happy that they don't ever do anything again with it? Also, yes. I would still support with, like, different kind of merchandise and everything. I'm like, I did not expect to like this series this much when I saw it in, like, 2018. And be like, okay, let's kind of see how this works out. I have to hand it to him to be able to provide this kind of quality for the series, the special episode that they did, the first movie, and this movie. It's like, yeah, if everything had worked out better and they'd been able to do a theater release for it, hot damn, I would have been in there and I would have been like, yep. And I would have been like, alright, so now I'm just jonesing for them to do the Blu-ray release and be like, yep, add that to my collection, support them, and see how it goes on. This was a good one. I'm glad I was able to watch it, and I'm glad I was able to experience it. So those are my opinions on the movie. Tell me what you guys think in the comments below. If you liked it, if you didn't like it, if you agree with me, if you disagree with me. Also like and subscribe, and I hope you have a good day.